Now, talk to me about the fraud and whether what they're doing is, is in some ways illegal, or is corrupt.
Oh, it's totally illegal. First of all, you have to go back to the 2008, 2007, 2006, that period. What Bank of America and what all the big banks were involved in essentially was a giant fraud scheme. It's no different than here in the streets of New York, where you see people selling fake Prada bags out in the street or phony blue jeans. What they were doing was selling phony mortgages. They were taking really poor mortgages, subprime mortgages of very poor quality, lent out to extremely risky borrowers, and they were disguising them as AAA-rated, high-quality loans. They were essentially lending out mortgages to everybody with a pulse. They were taking those loans, chopping them up, and then selling them off to unsuspecting unions and pensions and foreign retirement funds, representing them as these high-quality securities. It was a giant fraud scheme, and they were doing this all over the world, and as part of these deals, they were required to buy back any defective loans that were in default. And that's what Bank of America is facing right now. They're supposed to be buying back all these bad loans, and they're not doing it. And there is this gigantic string of customers, outraged customers, knocking on their door demanding their money back.
So that opens up two things that are really important. One is, who do they rip off? And as you explain, and again, not explained nearly well enough in the rest of the media, it was the pensions. And I've talked to Naomi Prince, who used to be the managing director of Goldman Sachs. She says, look, that's the suckers at the table. When you go to rob people, who do you go to rob? The average American and their pensions. So what did they do to the pensions?
Yeah, no, look, who buys these mortgage-backed securities? The customers were these big institutional investors, and a very typical customer was like a state pension fund, the New York State Pension Fund, the New York City Retirement Fund, the Los Angeles County Retirees, the State of Mississippi Retirement Fund. All these people went to Bank of America and they bought mortgage-backed securities that they thought were of very high quality. What people need to understand is that the fraud on Wall Street, they think it's some abstraction, bankers ripping off other bankers, it's some kind of insider trading scheme where it's a victimless crime. That's not what it is. It's bankers ripping off old people and retirees.
Now, that's the case of the mortgages, right, where they rip off the retirees, et cetera. And then there's the case of the municipal bonds, where they rip off the local cities, and then cities like Jefferson County, or I should say counties like Jefferson County, Alabama, go bankrupt, and then everybody loses their money. They take the money from someone, and it's us ultimately they take it from. But, Matt, as I'm reading your long piece here, constantly the theme that they come back to is there's never any consequences. They're, in essence, too big to comply, because they turn to the government and go, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, just this week we found out that the number one recipients of municipal bond business in America, the number 1 and 2 companies are still Chase and Bank of America, and those two companies both have paid $100 million settlements for bid rigging. Chase got caught in 25 different states rigging municipal bids, and Bank of America got caught rigging at least 88 different bids in different municipalities. And again, this is not a victimless crime. If your town wants to raise money and issue a bond to build a new basketball court or a school, and they're paying $1 million instead of $3 million for their investment banking business, well, that money eventually is going to come out of your pocket. They're going to raise taxes to make up that money that they didn't make from the banks. So they're paying artificially low bids for these contracts, and they're doing it all over the country.